Hello and welcome to your Newsmax Daily for Tuesday, July 30th, 2024. It's the 212th day of the year and National Cheesecake Day in the US of A. There you go. You already know what you're going to have for dessert. And those of you who have contacted me over time from Canada, Mexico, Costa Rica, Netherlands, and other places, you're welcome to celebrate with some cheesecake as well. At Radio_Marino on X. I always like to know where you're listening and when you're listening. And when I mean by when, I mean like driving, in the gym, on a walk, run, sitting on the couch, whatever. At Radio_Marino. Meanwhile, in Venezuela, protests have erupted in the streets of Caracas and other places after the opposition party said it has proof that its candidate defeated incumbent President Nicolas Maduro, who was declared the winner in its election, handing him his third term. In Venezuela, the terms are 6 years. This would be his third 6th-year term. Here in the United States, we're now 98 days away from Election Day. Less than 100 days to go. Republican Vice Presidential nominee Senator J.D. Vance holding 2 rallies today in Nevada, as I mentioned yesterday, Henderson and Reno, if you're in that area. And Vice President Harris, the presumptive Democrat nominee for president, is campaigning in Georgia today. Let's start with Rob Schmitt, who returned from his well-deserved vacation last night, thinking what many Americans are also thinking. What in the world is going on?
Welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight. Good to be back with you tonight. I know I missed a heck of a week. And something extraordinary is happening right before our very eyes right now this week. One of the most unimpressive, embarrassing, and blatantly incompetent people that the D.C. swamp has ever produced is suddenly insanely close to running our country. After weeks of Trump dominating in the polls, a new Fox poll has the swing states looking very tight right now with Kamala as the candidate, and this all seems to have happened pretty much overnight. And it's clear how it happened. Our national press, as they often do, has gone back into full propaganda mode. They're very desperate in this moment, and they're doing everything they can. It is the culmination of a very disturbing anti-democratic process that started with the ousting of Joe Biden only after the primaries had ended, allowing Kamala Harris to be effectively anointed with no vetting and no voting at all. Now that she has the nomination, the next step, of course, is the American people are now being indoctrinated. Take a look at the cover of New York Magazine today. That is how the establishment media looks right now. That is everywhere. That's how they look. Here is how they sound.
Kamala Harris, in so many ways, might just be the right candidate at the right time.
Tonight, a whole new race for president. Democrats rallying around Kamala Harris.
She speaks beautifully. She knows her issues. She has the experience.
One of the most qualified people.
One of the most qualified people to run in decades.
She is also very attractive. I mean, I have to say it.
This feels Obama-level energy.
A Reuters Ipsos poll had Vice President Kamala Harris leading former President Donald Trump 44-42.
It's over! You are witnessing the machine in full effect. It is astonishing to see its power as well. The transformation of someone so pitiful into a political force so powerful in just a matter of days. What planet are we even on? And they're only getting started. Remember, this machine was able to carry Joe Biden until his brain basically fell out of his head during the first debate. Kamala Harris, for all of her flaws, and there's a billion of them, at least is responsive. If you ask her a question, she knows you exist. She'll undoubtedly be an easier manipulation than Joe Biden was. And now it's clear why the machine had to wait until Biden secured the primaries to toss him to the side. Why the nominee had to be Kamala. A Washington Post headline making it very clear. A loyal foot soldier. She never strays from party orthodoxy. That in combination with the money issue they had, this is why it happened. In addition to having no real personality of her own, Kamala Harris has no mind of her own, and they love that in Washington. Just like Joe Biden, Kamala will be a puppet for this very dangerous quasi-Marxist post-Obama agenda that has taken over the establishment. Absolutely nothing will change in your country if Kamala Harris is elected. This will all just continue on in a nice straight line, really a straight line going this way, the decline of this country. You'll just have a more diverse, giggling doofus in the White House instead of a corpse. It's the only thing that'll change.
Rob Schmitt, host of Rob Schmitt Tonight, 7 o'clock Eastern on Newsmax. Tell us how you really feel, Rob. Senator Elizabeth Warren, who ran for president against Kamala Harris, is one of the people in that clip that said Kamala Harris is one of the most qualified people to run in decades. Decades, when she actually ran just a few years ago, everybody, including Elizabeth Warren, other Democrats, and the media thought she was terrible. Exactly the point being made in this segment on American Agenda with Bob Brooks and former Wall Street executive, vice chair of the New York State GOP, Newsmax's John Burnett.
President Trump, he posted a video on Truth Social about the evolving media attitudes towards Kamala Harris. Let's watch this.
There are reports that say that you have the lowest approval rating of any vice president. Well, there are polls that also say I have great approval ratings.
Kamala Harris's approval rating is now at 28%, which is an historic low for any modern vice president.
We're hearing it from mainstream media, one outlet after another, one leak after another. That Kamala Harris is the worst vice president ever, the worst politician ever.
We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I don't understand the point that you're making.
John, you're sitting next to me. I know we're in boxes on TV here, but you just looked at me and you said, wow. Boy, they used to go hard at her, and all of a sudden it's Kamala. It's the best thing ever.
I had no idea they went that hard. That is very clear. Mm-hmm. And the beautiful part about television, there's always a record. Mm-hmm. That's going to be a campaign ad he should put millions of dollars behind that campaign ad for television and social media. Why? To play the words right back to the mainstream media as well as people who watch their programs. Why? Because it's an indictment. She doesn't have a record. She hasn't been to the border. She's horrible in foreign relations. Look at the fact that she snubbed one of our biggest allies on the globe. So this is very clear for the American people, and there's no one better to bring it to Kamala Harris than President Trump.
And hence why I'm not surprised, Caroline, that the campaign of Trump, you dropped this ad. I think it's important. And the reaction from John, I'm sure to everyone, how quickly we have forgotten about how bad all the media thought she was until they probably got a memo from the top and said, okay, time to pump her up.
Exactly. The same liberal mainstream media that told the American people for years that Joe Biden was fine, he was sharp as a tack, he was doing cartwheels, don't believe your lying eyes. The same folks now continuing to carry water for Kamala Harris, act as her PR machine, rewrite history, try to whitewash her record on just about every issue, including the border. Kamala Harris, of course, being the border czar. That was a name that the media themselves gave to her proudly just a few years ago. Now rewriting history saying, oh, no, we never said that. But much like Kamala Harris, the media has zero credibility. Liberal mainstream media has zero credibility with voters in this country. She is dangerously liberal. And as voters continue to find out the truth of just how dangerously liberal Kamala Harris is, how weak, failed, and incompetent she is on a host of issues, but particularly the border, as we see, no matter how hard the liberal mainstream media tries, they can give her the Hillary Clinton treatment. It does not work. Voters know the truth. And once they learn the truth about just how dangerously liberal she is, the bottom really starts to fall out on those poll numbers.
That's the voice of Caroline Sunshine, Deputy Communications Director of the Trump campaign on Newsmax's American Agenda. The poll numbers are showing Harris polling much better than she previously did, especially in some of the all-important swing states. Former President Trump and the campaign announcing that he is headed back to one of those all-important swing states, Pennsylvania, Butler, Pennsylvania.
Caroline, I'm going to start with you. Trump, he's going back to Butler. I was there when that happened. I was right in front of him on the media riser. He's going to stand pretty much in the same spot, deliver a speech where he was shot in the head. What does that say to the American people, to voter? I think it takes a ton of guts to be able to do this.
Absolutely. I call President Trump the great American warrior. Ronald Reagan may have been the great communicator, another great U.S. president who had a brush with the assassin's bullet, but President Trump is the great American warrior. You saw that, what has now become, will belong to the ages, those moments after President Trump, grazed by the assassin's bullet, gets up, blood still on his face, very much still in clear and present danger, gets to his feet and says, fight, fight, fight. Of course, he said those words for the crowd that day. He said them for our country. It's become a battle cry, a source of hope and inspiration for our movement, for our country. And President Trump has said and has shown he's back to work. He's back to bringing his winning message to every corner of this country, to battleground states like Pennsylvania. He has continued to carry the memory of Corey Comporteur with him, of his wife and his children, Corey's bravery, his valor in protecting, giving his life for those women and children. And President Trump is ready to head back to Butler, Pennsylvania, to be with the great American patriots there, continue bringing his winning message to an important state like Pennsylvania, and keep showing that courage is indeed contagious.
I have no doubt the crowd will be big.
Again, that's Newsmax host Bob Brooks with Trump campaign Deputy Communications Director Caroline Sunshine. I told you yesterday Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro is angling to be Kamala's VP. According to the New York Times, North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper, a much more moderate mainstream Democrat, said thanks but no thanks to Kamala Harris and has withdrawn his name from the short list of Harris's running mates. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer also excused herself as a contender, but now Michigan Senator Gary Peters is reportedly being considered as a possible running mate in an effort to appeal to labor unions. Newsmax host and former White House advisor to the Trump campaign, Sebastian Gorka, says it doesn't make any difference who Kamala's running mate is going to be.
The beep stakes here. It could be Josh Shapiro. It might be someone else. Over the weekend here, Tim Walz said these guys are just weird. He's also on the short list here. Don't give them power. They are a threat to democracy. The Minnesota governor saying that just weeks since the assassination attempt also on Donald Trump, clearly ratcheting down the rhetoric, not something in his playbook, Seb.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter who it's going to be, who the VP pick is, because this is going to be a binary choice on November 5th. And we don't even have to focus on what a weirdo Kamala is or her completely transactional career and what she did as a prosecutor, what she did as the attorney general. Let's be clear. The only thing we need to discuss as conservatives or people who apolitically just love America is she is part of the Biden regime. You can't peel her off and say, ooh, this is a fresh face. No, whether it's the border, whether it's the economy, whether it's wars across the world, this is the Biden-Harris administration. And if there's one issue that's energized Americans more than any other, it's illegals and it's the open border.
Right.
And Kamala, you were the border czarina. You are the border czarina. Whatever Google, whatever Axios says, you were the point person for letting 20 million illegals that we know of into America.
Absolutely. They own that record. I just have a little clip here of the Olympics opening ceremony, not about athletic prowess, I'm about mocking Christians, the Last Supper. There's drag queens. Your reaction to how this display was signed off on, frankly. I mean, this is demonic. This is destructive. There's a sexualization part of all of this. And this is something that, you know, for the whole globe to see, Seb.
Yeah, as a great philosopher once said, a great British philosopher, one of the greatest disasters of the modern age was the French Revolution. And we know what happened after the French Revolution. The destruction of Christianity, the razing of the churches, the persecution of Catholics. One person drew a cartoon of Muhammad in Paris, and it led to the deaths of all those people in the Charlie Hebdo massacre.
That's right.
This would never be done with Islam. This is because Christianity is an okay whipping boy for the left. And the fact that they apologized, it doesn't matter.
No.
They did it. This was okay. This is the war on Western civilization. And to have a child there in this blasphemous, sacrilegious representation of one of the seminal moments of the world's greatest religion, to have a child there, I think I'm going to have to underline what you said. This is utterly diabolical.
Yeah. And, you know, God will not be mocked, as the Bible says. Big power outage the day after. Sacre Coeur not affected. So a lot of symbolism there as well.
Newsmax host Bianca De La Garza with former White House advisor and host of the Gorka reality check, Sebastian Gorka. The Olympic ceremony was also a topic of discussion on National Report with Sean Kreisman and Emma Reckenberg.
We want to bring in Pastor Lucus Miles. He's the host of the Lucus Miles Show, author of Woke Jesus, the False Messiah Destroying Christianity. How fitting to have you on here. So this is after that moment, but there's a moment, as Emma was rightfully pointing out, where it was just, again, the DJ with the sunlight behind her, and then the others on the side, again, dressed there in drag. During this moment, which many, again, say it's a unifying moment. This is about the athletes. It's about the countries coming together. And we've somehow got this vision of celebrating tolerance, diversity, inclusion, this coming from the artist, going so far that the Olympic Committee had to apologize, saying, we didn't mean offense by it, but if you were offended, we're sorry. Your thoughts on it?
Yeah, look, there's been a big conversation about whether this was Jesus or Dionysus. And obviously the apology tells us, right, if they wouldn't have needed to apologize, if it wouldn't have been about Christianity, if it wouldn't have been a mockery of Jesus. And so I think that, if we put any other religion in there, if you put Islam, if you put something else, the response and the backlash from this would be even more so. And so this just goes to show what I think that a lot of these elites think about Christianity. It was a disgrace to start the Olympics this way. And but I'm glad to see the apology, but a little too late. In my opinion.
That's Pastor Lucus Miles on National Report. The opening ceremony was so shocking that no one has even talked about the fact that the South Korea swim team was introduced as the North Korea swim team. The IOC, the International Olympic Committee, is apologizing for that as well. At least one American company now has announced that it's pulling its advertising from the Olympics, citing the offensive opening ceremony. Susie Hayes is the president and CEO of Mississippi-based C-Spire, a technology company, and said in a statement that C-Spire is supportive of our athletes who have worked so hard to be a part of the Olympics. However, we will not be a part of the offensive and unacceptable mockery of the Last Supper, which is why we're pulling our advertising from the 2024 Olympics. The big news from the Olympics themselves, the competition, other than Simone Biles competing with an injured calf now, is that the U.S. men's gymnastic team won a bronze medal, the first medal for the U.S. men's gymnastic team in 16 years. So major kudos to them. And let's go back to Donald Trump for a moment and the Butler, Pennsylvania rally to wrap it up. There are new developments in the investigation into the assassination attempt on the former president. The FBI confirming that the shooter used aliases to purchase firearms, ammunition, and chemicals. And text messages between local sniper teams on site show that they did notice the shooter nearly 2 hours before he shot at Trump. According to ABC News, one sniper text said, "He knows you guys are up there," referencing the shooter on the roof. More from Congressman James Comer on last night's Prime News.
Well, we are learning disturbing details. As we just said, they spotted the gunman more than an hour before Trump's speech, and he's still allowed to take the stage. How does that happen?
Well, it shouldn't happen. I think we saw with the hearing my committee had with Kimberly Cheadle that the Secret Service is broken. But if you go back 10 years, the House Oversight Committee, when Jason Chaffetz was chair, they were investigating the Secret Service for lots of failures and deficiencies. And I think what we've seen there in Pennsylvania was a culmination of years of negligence, years of poor management, years of just bad decisions. And what we have now is a scenario where I don't think anybody has confidence in the Secret Service. I know Donald Trump doesn't have confidence in the Secret Service, and if I were Joe Biden, I wouldn't have confidence either. So we've got to have new leadership in the Secret Service. I'm glad that our committee led to Kimberly Cheadle resigning, but that's just a small start. We need all new leadership. We need answers. I think we've seen that they've made lots of mistakes in communication. I don't know that it was on purpose that that was allowed to happen, but it was allowed to happen and it shouldn't have been. Now,
it did seem that when Cheadle was there in front of your committee, almost that she was intentionally unprepared so she could skirt your tough questions. And she decided not to resign until the next day. Why not just do it in front of your committee that day? She had many opportunities, Congressman.
Yeah, well, and why would you put yourself through that knowing what the questions were going to be? I don't think any member, Republican or Democrat, asked her a question that was unreasonable or that she would have been unexpected. I believe that she was taking a bullet for the Secret Service. I believe she knows a whole lot more, and I believe she took it like a good soldier. That doesn't solve the problem. Just one person resigning isn't enough. We need all management. And were people promoted in the Secret Service to check a box? Was DEI part of their hiring process as opposed to hiring the best, most qualified people? I don't know, but that's something that I hope we can find out and fix very soon.
Congressman Comer, chair of the House Oversight and Accountability Committee on Newsmax. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in the Philippines today announcing aid for flood recovery.
I'm able to announce today an additional $1 million in assistance to help bring food, emergency shelter, logistics, and other aid to all of those who've been affected. Both of us share concerns, and many other countries in the region share concerns as well, about some of the actions that the People's Republic of China has taken, escalatory actions in the South China Sea, the East China Sea.
After a mixed close on Wall Street yesterday, stocks opened mixed again this morning with the Dow just slightly lower. McDonald's cooked up some disappointing earnings yesterday, missing the mark on several estimates. Microsoft will report earnings after the close of bell today. That's the biggie that everybody will be paying attention to. Then we have Amazon and Meta, which, is the parent company of Facebook. They'll be reporting earnings later in the week. Keep up with all of the news and breaking news throughout the day on Newsmax, Newsmax.com, and make sure you have the new Newsmax Plus for the most complete lineup of all your favorite shows and guests, like Rob Schmitt Tonight, Greg Kelly Reports, Greta Van Susteren, Carl Higbee, Wake Up America, Newsline with Bianca De La Garza, and more, and analysis from people like Mark Halpern, Governor Mike Huckabee, Alan Dershowitz, former Acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker, and many others. NewsmaxPlus.com. I'm Tony Marino. Thank you, as always, for listening to the Newsmax Daily. Enjoy the rest of your day. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast on whatever podcast platform you may be listening on. And keep on fighting the good fight.
News breaks every minute, every day. You need the app, the Newsmax app. Find it free on your smartphone store. Then watch us anytime, anywhere.
It's our America. We conquered it. We built it. Great values like honesty and fairness. Great courage. A great nation needs a free press. Newsmax is it. 30 million Americans regularly go to Newsmax when they really need to know. They watch Newsmax TV at home, on the free Newsmax app. They go to Newsmax.com. Start today. Newsmax is real news for real people.